Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about how to just ace your exams. So I feel like exams are the one thing in life that I've actually got sussed. I'm now in my final year of uni, so I have done quite a few exams in my time. And I feel like I've just worked out the best technique to get the best grades possible without a crazy amount of effort. But obviously you still need to work hard. I somehow managed to get 8 A stars and 2 A's at GCSE and an A star and 2 A's at A-Level. And at uni I do much better in my exams than at coursework. But I honestly think that anybody has the potential to do well in exams. And so I'm going to talk you through the steps that I use and hopefully they'll be useful for you. So my first tip, I think is the most important, is to actually leave enough time. So leave way more than you think you'll need. And I like to think of revision as having 3 stages. So the first stage is kind of preliminary, like getting all your notes together, making sure it's in a really good order that you know you'll be able to kind of picture, making sure you have all the notes you actually need to get a good grade. So at GCSE I used just textbooks, at A-Level I used lots of the notes which I was given in class, and at uni I'm more kind of making my own notes. So in this preliminary stage I just make sure the notes are in really good categories and are say in like chronological order or kind of in the right subcategory. And then the second stage is definitely just reading it all through. So just reading it through 2 or 3 times and just having a good overview of everything you've got in your notes. And then the third stage is actually memorising it. So I like to think of exams as just memory tests because that's basically what they are. So I think when you think of it like that, then it kind of simplifies it a lot more and kind of eases stress a bit. So I'm like, as long as I can remember all this stuff, then I'll be fine. So in this stage you kind of have to find out the way of memorising stuff that suits you best. So for me, I find that saying things out loud really helps me remember it. So I normally do this at home by myself. So I'll cover my notes and just say it all out loud until I've completely got it in my head. So I kind of treat it like learning lines. And I just do that over and over and over again until I can almost picture where things are on the page. And then once I've got it really in my head from saying it out loud a lot, I then move on to writing it down, because I find that writing it down kind of goes to a different part of your brain, and so you kind of memorise it in that area as well. So that's basically what I do. I just cover the page and just make sure without looking I can just say it all out loud. And then I'll move to not having the textbook near me at all and just being able to write it all down onto pieces of paper. And then that kind of brings you on to the 4th stage, which is making sure you have a really good technique in the exam. So I find that exams are half how much you can remember and half technique. So I find the best way of getting a really good technique is looking at past exam papers, particularly the mark schemes. Now this is a lot harder at uni, because they don't really give a proper mark scheme. But at GCSE and A-Levels, I found the mark schemes were amazing. Basically the mark schemes just tell you what they're looking for. So I found this particularly useful for English exams because it basically said these are the things we're looking for. It was also incredibly useful for science exams. So I remember really struggling a lot with the equations and things like that, because I think my teachers were just showing us a really complicated way of doing them. But then what I did was I went onto the mark schemes and it basically just had a really simple way of doing each of the equations we needed to know. So I just used those equations and it was such an easy step. It was like 2 steps instead of, I think the teacher was giving us like 6 steps, which just made it so much easier and also saves you a lot of time in the exam. I found that also looking at the mark schemes really helped make sure that your notes were giving you enough to get the best grades. So sometimes I'd realise that in order to get the full 4 marks, I'd need to remember like a few extra points or something like that. And so I'd do research that and then remember that. And then that helped me a lot in the exam. And also printing off the syllabus from the exam board and making sure I just knew really well each part of the syllabus, because they can only ask you things that are on the syllabus. So that's also how I kind of organised my notes, was going in line with the syllabus and making sure I've got enough for each part. Then finally, I'd then do loads and loads of practice papers, and I'd also do lots of essay plans for things like history, English, geography, Latin even, like lots of kind of pretend essay plans, just pretending it was like an exam, and then kind of marking myself when looking at the marking scheme so I could kind of see what the examiner would be looking for. So I'd organise it so that by the last 2 weeks I was basically just looking back on the notes and making sure I just knew my notes inside out. By the time the exam came, it just wasn't too stressful, but that's a lot easier at GCSE than at A-Level and uni. At A-Level, because I was doing 3 subjects, what I'd do in the month beforehand is split my time according to days. So each day in the month before my exam, I'd be properly memorising and practising for 2 subjects per day. Whereas at GCSE, I'm probably doing 3 or 4 subjects per day. And a really important thing to remember is to keep your notes really organised. Because I feel like if your notes aren't organised, you just feel really flustered and worried that you're missing something and things like that. So just keeping everything really, really clear and organised so that you can really picture it when you're in the exams. And just before the exams, I'd always have an energy drink of some kind. So I'd have like Lucozade, or I think at A-Level I'd have like a Red Bull or something, just to give me a bit of proper energy and adrenaline before I went in. And I'd make sure I'd have tons and tons and tons of pens so I wouldn't feel worried that they'd run out or something. And I'd always bring a bottle of water with me and make sure I'd also have like a cereal bar or something before I went in too. So yeah, I think that's all my tips now. I hope this was useful in some way. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me in the comments and I'll definitely reply. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. I get so happy when each one of you subscribes. And also remember to like the video if you did like it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!